I oh, and the recording is being started. So again, thank you very much, Liz, for being here, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today at the AARP New Hampshire sponsored program with the Creative Feast. Today's program is 15-minute meals. My name is Kathy Hoey, and your host and volunteer with AARP. We have Frances with us, who is going to be monitoring the chat. For over 60 years, AARP has been promoting the health and welfare and well-being of older Americans. Here in New Hampshire, we strive to bring you informative, innovative, and fun virtual events like today's online cook-along demonstration as a means of connection and inclusion. If you have any questions or comments during this session about AARP New Hampshire or the cooking demonstration, please put them in the Q&A section or in the chat, and my fellow volunteer Frances and I will try to raise them with Liz during the program. AARP has numerous healthy living resources on its website, from staying fit to wellness and longevity, information on healthy eating, as well as staying sharp. There is something for everyone. And Frances will put the link in the chat, which is www.aarp.org/healthyliving. We want to say that Chef Liz of Hollis, New Hampshire, built her cooking career in a variety of Boston catering and restaurant settings. After starting her family, she entered the cooking world as a cooking instructor with Liz Barber's Creative Feast. Her recipes and teaching style connect her with her community, and Liz soon had a large following and has a large following of loyal students. She is a regular guest on New Hampshire's WMUR Cooking Corner, and her cooking demonstrations are represented and featured in various publications, excuse me, including Where Women Cook, New Hampshire Magazine, the New Hampshire Telegraph, and the Hippo Press in New Hampshire. All of her programs focus on the premise that we are healthier when we cook at home. We hope you enjoy today's program, and we thank you, Liz, and take it away.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you all hanging in there with us while we've got everything taken care of. So we're going to run over a little bit. Maybe we'll see. These are 15-minute meals, so hopefully this will go pretty fast. Some of you are probably cooking along with me, so you should have all of your ingredients out according to the recipe. I'm just going to move some here so you can take a peek at some of the recipes that we've got here. I'm also going to take you to my website right now so you can see where you can find the recipes for those of you who don't have them. So let's go ahead and I need my host to enable me to share my screen so I can share everything with our participants. So if one of you ladies wouldn't mind taking care of that, then I can do that. So just let me know when you're all set with that.
You should be all set now, Liz.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's take another peek. Nope. Do the other, can you do the Liz camera? So they're backwards for some reason. So try the other one. There we go. Thank you so much. All right, so here we are at Liz Barber's Creative Feast, and this is where you're going to find your recipes. If you go right up to the top, you'll see it says Food and Fun Recipe Blog, and then just scoot down to where it says AARP 2023 Cook-Along Classes, and that's where you're going to find all of the recipes from the year that we've been doing this together. And here we have our 15-minute meals, and we're going to be doing an Asian lettuce wraps and curry miso coleslaw. Also, you can look forward to next month's event. We're going to be doing low-carb breads. This is for people who are really interested in lowering their carbohydrate intake, which quite honestly should be all of us. So these are some great easy breads for you to make, because I know that that's probably the hardest part of going low carb, is to limit your bread. So how can we do that? And then in December on the 19th, we're going to be doing a holiday French apple tart, which will be a beautiful addition to your holiday table. So check those out. You can also check out if you want to share my programs with your local library, someone else, and you can check out my calendar, which has an up-to-date listing of my events and how you can join. So why don't we just head on back into the kitchen. We're shy one camera, so when I do go over to saute up one of our ingredients, I'm going to do that off to the side, but I'm going to be doing most of the action right here. So for now, I'm going to set aside, excuse me, our lettuce wraps, because those are going to be served hot. So I'm going to do that at the end. So for your lettuce wrap ingredients, you can move those off to the side. And the first thing we're going to focus on is our coleslaw. And I am a huge fan of coleslaw. Cabbage is just so good for you. And cabbage is one of those staples that you can keep in your refrigerator, so that when you have 15 minutes, you can either shred it up and make a simple coleslaw. And by the way, coleslaw does not have to have mayonnaise in the dressing. It can be various vinaigrettes. You can even use a regular vinaigrette that you would put on salad, because really that's what coleslaw is. So take the thought of your typical coleslaw out of your head and just think of this as a really healthy salad that you can have at any time. The other reason why I love to have cabbage on hand is it lasts a long time in your refrigerator, either in as a whole cabbage or sliced up for a salad. So it is long lasting. So if you are, or if there's just two of you at home, get a small head of cabbage, cut it in half, use one half this week, wrap it tightly and refrigerate it, and you can use the other half next week or the week after. Cabbage also is wonderful sauteed in butter with herbs. It's a very simple side dish, but very good for you. And again, easy to have around. The key to making our 15-minute meals be 15 minutes is the idea that we have ingredients that are on hand and readily available. Today, we're doing things on more of an Asian style. So the ingredients that I'm using for these two recipes are common to each other. And then you'd have many opportunities to use them again. So we have here our cabbage. I've got shredded carrots already set for us. We're going to use some red onion. But the secret to this salad is the dressing. And so I'm going to show you that is super easy to make. When you make your own salad dressing, you know every ingredient that goes in them. There are no preservatives in our homemade salad dressings. The ingredients themselves are preservatives. Also, we want to make sure we're using a high quality oil, not a highly processed oil. So we want to eliminate canola oil, vegetable oil of any kind, corn oil. Those oils are highly processed and they do cause inflammation. So if you are struggling with any kind of inflammation, you want to eliminate those from your diet. So do check all of the packages that you buy at the grocery store. Make sure there's no soybean oil, canola oil, vegetable oil in them. You want high quality fats, high quality oils that are minimally processed. In this case, we want to use one that has, it doesn't have a high flavor profile. So what would you use that isn't highly flavored? Well, extra virgin olive oil, that has a lot of flavor. So that's not one that I would use for this. I like to use, I'm using today a coconut oil that I have melted, and it will make my dressing really thick. So I may need to leave it out at room temperature. You could use a avocado oil. You could use a light olive oil if you'd like. So just keep that in mind. The oils in our diet are really important to pay attention to. All right, so let's just take a minute, and I'm going to go ahead and get the salad ready, get those ingredients. So I am using this wonderful Savoy cabbage. It's got really curly edges to it. It's just beautiful in color. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut that in half. And I'm just going to use half of this today because it's really just me and my husband. But I will say, when you make a coleslaw like this or a salad using cabbage, It also lasts a long time in your refrigerator, over a few days without getting too soggy. So that's another benefit to using cabbage. Now, I'm taking off the outer leaves just because it's easier to slice. You certainly could use a mandolin, but I thought, probably not everybody has one of those. So I'm going to be doing this by hand. Now, I quarter my cabbage, and usually I will take out the heart, but this is really very small, so I'm just going to leave it in. If you're using a regular green cabbage or a regular red cabbage, I would definitely cut out that heart, and basically you just kind of cut it on the edge right here. And then I'm just going to go ahead and slice this nice and thin. Always using a sharp knife will make that job that much easier. I also find that for, when you're eating, and now I'm just going to tip this over because it's a little bit more steady, that when you're eating vegetables that are pretty sturdy, like cabbage, if I slice it really thin, it really makes it so easy to eat. And the flavor I find is sweeter. I don't get too much of a mouthful. And so I like to slice it nice and thin. So that's what I've done here. And just pop that in. Now, this salad is also really beautiful with red cabbage. That's actually one of my favorite cabbages to use for salad. But my grocery store, for some reason, the red cabbage didn't come in. So that's when I chose the Savoy cabbage. But you could use other cabbages if you like other Asian cabbages. So it's a really versatile salad. Okay. So again, the key here is to do this nice and thin, and then you'll be all set. Now, I did say in the recipe, in the ingredients, that you could, if you wanted to buy pre-sliced cabbage, that's perfectly fine. Those kinds of tricks help, if it helps to assure that you're going to do this by your, at home, and so that you know all those ingredients, then I'm all for it. So buying pre-shredded cabbage is a fine idea. I just find when I do it myself, I can get those cabbage, the slice really thin, so that's why I choose to do it. But certainly for you, you can do anything, that works for you. Also, do make sure that there are no kind of vegetable preservatives in that sliced cabbage. You never know what a manufacturer is going to put in there. So we have our cabbage there. We've got our carrots. Okay, you can use as much or as little as you like. If you don't like carrots, don't put them in. We're going to be using red pepper for the next part of the recipe. If you'd like to use red peppers in here, go right ahead. If you'd like to slice up some cucumbers, do that. Broccoli chopped really fine would be wonderful in this. So don't be afraid. What if you don't have cabbage? Could you make this with broccoli? Of course you can. Just shred it really fine, and you can use cabbage as a really nice textured salad, main part of the salad. Sometimes I like to do that rather than keeping it in little florets. Okay, so then we have our red onion. Certainly you can use scallion if you prefer. I love having red onion on hand. I will, cut it in half and store it, and then it's ready for me to cut from at any time. To make this easier, all I'm going to do is just cut it in half, pull off that outer part of the cabbage, put it on the flat side. I'm sorry, the onion, put it on the flat side, and then slice off the top of the onion. And then we can either do that in slices, very thin slices if we like, or I'm going to go ahead and show you how I like to dice this. It's a wonderful lesson on how to use your knife. So I cut down to the root of the onion without cutting through the root, and I try to do this as thinly as possible because I want small diced red onion. Okay, so we can do that. And then I turn my onion just enough so that I can cut across those slices, and now it's all diced. Now, you can just leave it cut it like I did, leave it like this, wrap it, put it in the refrigerator. The next time you need onion, just take it out. And now you're cutting in one direction and it's all set for you to go. All right. And again, you can put as much or as little of that in there. Now, those are my main ingredients for the salad itself. Now let's switch over to the dressing. This is one of my favorite dressings. I love to have this on hand. It will stay in the refrigerator for quite some time. It does require 2 cloves of garlic minced. Okay. We are putting it in a blender, so but I like to pre-chop those a little bit because sometimes they get lost with all of the ingredients and they don't chop up as fine. And then the other ingredient is going to be ginger, and I'm grabbing my other ginger here. Where did I put that? Oh, here it is. I'm grabbing this ginger because both of our recipes include ginger. So part of your 15-minute challenge is to save yourself time. So I'm going to slice all of my garlic, all of my ginger for both my recipes at one time, and then it's done. Now, this peel is a little bit on the thick side, so I take my spoon and I just rub off that peel on the ginger. All right. And that makes it it's super easy to do that. All right, just peel that, whoops, right off. And then we're going to chop that up. Ginger is a little bit tricky to chop because it does have, it's a very fibrous. So I'll show you my best tips for that. And I just am going to make sure I have a nice clean edge there. And again, I'm doing this for both recipes. So I'm going to go ahead and peel this one. Now, you may have seen in other demonstrations that I don't peel the ginger. The reason I'm peeling this ginger is because the skin is very thick. So it's probably an older bulb. Sometimes you get ginger from the grocery store and the skin is very thin and it doesn't bother me to leave it on. I just wash it well. It's a personal choice, so whatever you like, but I did want to make sure that I showed you the easiest way to take that peel off. Okay, and I'm just going to get rid of that. Oh, my
Liz,
floor
we
is a
got a
mess
couple of
already.
questions here.
Sure.
So one question was, starting from the beginning, if you have miso made from garbanzo beans instead of soy, can you use that?
Yes, I had never heard of that. Certainly, you'll find in the recipe what the miso does. Miso paste is has a lot of salt in it, so it adds that salty umami finish. If you find that your paste made with the garbanzo beans gives you that, then by all means use that. You may have to add some salt to your dressing once it's time for you to go and taste it. So thank you for that question. That's a great one. Now I'm going to go looking for it.
They asked about washing cabbage. I know if you have leaves that cover the whole outside, you don't have to wash the cabbage. But if you did decide to wash the cabbage, would you have to dry it prior to making this?
Yeah, look, I'm going to confess. I only wash the outside of the cabbage. But if you had to take it apart, do that. And you do want to dry it because if you leave, okay, we're using cabbage, but you could make this with just lettuce. Okay. Either way, you do want to dry it because if you don't, your dressing will not cling as well to your greens. So that's a really good question and important to remember. Dressings cling better to dry leaves, dry herbs. So always want to dry.
Okay, we have a couple more.
Wow.
Instead of
Okay.
the fresh ginger, could we use a ginger paste or grated ginger?
You can, but this is what I have to say about those items. Make sure that they do not have preservatives in them that could be an issue for you, okay? And they may have chemicals in them to help preserve them. This is why I personally don't use those. But at least you're using fresh, grated, or you can get it in the freezer section. It's already done for you. Just don't use dry ginger, right? That's not going to give you the flavor that you need here. This is all about personal preference. I'm always going to tell you what I use as a first choice, but I understand. Watch how this is not super easy to chop, right? Because of the fibers. So what I'm doing is I'm laying these pieces of ginger down so they go north and south, and cutting with the grain, so it makes it easier. So you want to do that. Now, the other thing too is I have found that when I'm going to make something with ginger, sometimes the ginger that I have in the refrigerator has gotten soft and moldy because it's been a while since I bought it. I'm like, oh, I'm so frustrated. Now I have to go to the store just to get a little bit of ginger. But here's something you can do. You can cut your ginger into blocks and just freeze the whole ginger, and then take it out, let it thaw. It doesn't take long. And as it thaws, it actually it softens it and softens the fiber, so it's easier to cut. You could also, like I'm doing here, chop up a lot of ginger, and you could freeze it in little packets of chopped ginger. Or what I have done is I have put it in the refrigerator in a little jar with a little bit of olive oil on top, and it stays nice and fresh in my refrigerator for a couple of weeks. So those are some tips. I know you have some more questions, so go right ahead.
Well, actually, I just had an answer for you. And so Kathy had said, the one who had asked about the garbanzo bean, she said
Yeah.
it's garbanzo miso, and it's called MIDO''S, Mido's miso. And it's
Okay.
made in Oregon.
All right. I love that as an option because I would imagine, I'm no expert on how you make miso paste or how you use soy, but I try to avoid soy products always. So, because again, these are highly processed, and soy is just not something I want to have in, especially my maturing body. There are a lot of questions about soy as part of our diet. So, the idea of being able to get garbanzo beans is a really nice option. So I'm definitely going to look for that, and I love that it's actually made here in the U.S. That's another bonus. So thank you so much for sharing that, Kathy. All right, now I've got my ginger well chopped, and we're going to use a couple tablespoons in this one and in the next. So I'm just going to add it in with my garlic for this, and then put some over here so that I can use it when we fry up our pork for our next recipe. Okay, so ginger and garlic all set. Then the rest of our ingredients are here is I have a white miso paste. You may have, there is a whole array of miso paste that you can use. You can use rice miso. There's many different types of miso. So whatever you like best, you can use. It lasts forever in your refrigerator, so don't worry about that. Just get the smallest package and then start using it. It does have that wonderful salty umami flavor. Here's some fresh local honey. I've got curry powder, and then I have some rice vinegar with water. Now, rice vinegar is a milder vinegar than most of the vinegars we have in our pantry. You could use a nice champagne vinegar as a substitute if that's what you have. But honestly, in a pinch, any one of your vinegars would be just fine. So don't worry about that if you don't often keep rice vinegar. One distinction to note is that rice vinegar that you use for sushi has sugar in it. It is called a seasoned vinegar. Well, I guess you could use it. It's not my first choice, but sure, I guess you could, because then you're just it does have the seasoning in it, so it's just going to be part of the dressing. Okay. Now, let's go over to our blender. I always like to put my liquid in first when I'm going to be using the blender. And let me get myself a little spatula here. So we'll put our miso paste. I've got my garlic and my ginger. I'm going to add my curry powder. and my honey. Now, if you want to cut back on the honey, you can do that also. Just remember, we are using vinegar in there. So I like to balance that little bit of sweetness with that tartness of the vinegar. Okay, so we've got that. Now I'm going to go ahead and run the blender briefly just to get those ingredients combined. That's going to make sure to chop up those the ginger and the garlic. And now I'm just going to take the top off, and I'm just going to add, now remember, I'm using coconut oil, so I did have to melt it. But it will probably, once it sits at room temperature for a while, it will harden back up to it. Maybe it'll just thicken up because we have these other wet ingredients in here, so it'll keep it from solidifying. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to add this in, and I'm going to let my blender do the magic. Okay, and that's it. Now, I personally would put this into a jar and keep it for the next time I'm going to be using a salad. But we're going to pour, it's really up to you how much, between, you know, a half a cup to a cup, whatever you like, however much dressing you like. The other thing I don't want to forget is the cilantro. Now, this is, again, it's a personal preference. I am a huge cilantro fan, so I love using cilantro when I do use cilantro. I also use the stems because the stems of cilantro are very flavorful, unlike parsley stems or basil stems, which can be very woody. The cilantro stems should not be thrown out. You definitely want to use those when you use cilantro. Now, if you are not a cilantro fan, you could add, instead of cilantro, basil. I wouldn't use, you know, as much, but basil is a wonderful substitute, and in fact will give you that Thai flavor that you might enjoy. So you could use a combination of basil and cilantro if you like. You can use parsley instead of cilantro, and I personally would always add the basil just because I'm looking for that Asian profile in the dish. So this is all, again, as I've said before, and I always say this, it's a matter of personal preference on things like this. But I always like to say, you know, try it my way first and see how you like it. Okay, so this is a beautiful salad, very easy to make. And how can I make this a full meal? That's the next step that you can choose on your own. But if you had, say you had a leftover roasted chicken, I would definitely shred up that leftover chicken and add it directly to this. You could also add cooked shrimp to this. The pork that we're going to be using for the next recipe, why not cook that up, let that cool down, and add it in here? You could do leftover steak in here. This is just the beginning of a great meal. You do want to make sure that you have plenty of protein in your diet. The myth that we don't need as much protein when we're older is something that we want to check out, you know, learn more about that, because we want to keep our muscle strength up. So here's the beginning of a great 15-minute meal. I'm just going to set this aside and we'll get started on the next part of our meal. All right. Lettuce wraps are super easy. I fell in love with lettuce wraps going to, I think it was California Kitchen. I just think they have the best lettuce wraps. So I started looking for recipes, working on recipes, and this is a very simple recipe. Now, I'm missing one of my cameras. So what I'm going to do is, whoops, right now I'm heating up my pan so that I can cook up my pork. So you're not going to miss a bunch over there. So this is ground pork. You're going to need about a pound. But if you don't want pork, you can certainly use ground chicken, ground turkey, ground beef, if that's what you have. This would also be really wonderful with ground lamb. The The red meats do have packed more of those wonderful nutrients and things, vitamin, all the vitamin Bs and things like that. So red meat is a great choice, but if you want to stick with white meat, you can do that. But if you don't like using pork, chicken, or beef, and you'd rather use seafood, I personally would love to have pieces of salmon in there. You could use swordfish, you could use shrimp, anything like that. Just make sure that your protein is cooked initially on its own first, and then you're going to, toss all of the ingredients in with that. So we have our pork, and as soon as my pan heats up, I'm going to be using that, getting that cooked up. And then very similar to our previous recipe, we have our garlic and we have our ginger. Okay, so those are all set for us. And then we have the other vegetables we're going to be using is I'm going to dice up some red pepper for you, dice up a little bit of onion. I have bean sprouts. It's optional, but once I have them in my refrigerator, then I'll use them for everything. And in fact, this dressing that I just made for you is perfect to put with bean sprouts, or this bean sprouts would be wonderful in that salad. So don't let them go to waste. They have a lot of protein packed in them, so you want to use those. And then, of course, we have our flavored ingredients for our seasoning. So let's go ahead. I'm going to just drop this into my pan. So again, I've got my coconut oil here. Oh no, that's my vinegar. There's my coconut oil. Coconut oil, you can't see. I'm just adding it to my pan just to cook up my my pork. So I'm just going to dump that in the pan and spread that out. And you're going to hear a nice sizzle over there. And we're just going to let that brown up. I'm going to pop over on occasion to go ahead and make sure that this is browning up. You're going to do that over medium-high heat. So you may see me disappear real quick, and that's why I'm doing it. Now, the other ingredients I'm using a hoisin sauce. So hoisin is an Asian sauce, and it combines soy sauce. It's got some sweetness in there. So it's really a thickened, sweetened soy sauce in effect. So we're using that. I also have a little bit of regular soy sauce. This is a highly flavored dish. I've got some crushed red pepper. You can choose to put those in or not. You could do less, maybe a quarter of a teaspoon rather than a half, and then see how you like it. I have some vinegar here. And then, of course, I've got my garlic and my ginger. Now, while the pork is cooking up, I'm going to go ahead and get my onions ready. And I think what I'll do is once that pan is heated up, I'm going to bring it over to my work surface here so you can see me adding all of these other ingredients in, and then we'll toss it back onto the stove. So let's just play this by ear. Let's go ahead and get our onions ready, because that's going to be the next ingredient going in. And ladies, if we have any questions, don't hesitate to interrupt. I'm happy to answer those questions.
Well, there was a question about maybe using grapeseed oil. I know you had said you could use avocado. So
yep. So here's the thing. Grapeseed oil, first of all, any oil that is manufactured as a cold press is better than a heated press. But do think of it this way. Oils that come from seeds are very small, and it takes a great deal of processing to extract the oil from grape seeds. So here's my question. Grape seeds aren't meant to be used for oil. Grape seeds are a byproduct of using grapes for grape juice, wine, all of that. They're just finding another use for these grape seeds. So, let's press them. They have some oil. If we press enough, if we process enough, we're going to get some oil out there, and we can feed it to people. So to me, that is just asking for trouble, because Sorry, I just had to turn on my fan. It's asking for trouble because it's not the purpose of grape seeds was not originally for oil. So to me, that's a lot of processing. That's an ingredient that, why would I use that when I have these other options that were intended to be used for oils, like olive oil? And so, you know, avocado oil is easier to extract because it's a larger fruit. So just kind of think of that when you are choosing the ingredients that you're eating. Is there an alternative that is even less processed than that and serves the purpose? Now, if grapeseed is your choice, that's fine. Just try to find one that is organic and that has been produced using cold pressing rather than a heated extraction. And look into how is grapeseed oil manufactured? That would be a really important question, because that's not something that is readily available to us. You really have to look for that. So I always recommend that you do that, because it could make a difference for you, especially if you're fighting inflammatory issues. All right, I'm almost done browning my pork, and that's all I'm doing over here is getting this nice and brown. So the beauty of this is that it takes just a few minutes to do that. And we've got our onions diced, so that's going to be ready. And then we're going to do our peppers, and this is one of my favorite demonstrations to share. Getting a pepper off of the sliced and diced without making a mess and cutting into those seeds. So basically I stand it on its flat side and I just slice down between the little dimples on the pepper and manage to leave all of those seeds intact. So this will go for my chicken. And then we're going to go ahead and slice our peppers thinly, lengthwise, and then turn them and slice across, just like we do with our onions. And now we have an even dice. Now let's go ahead. I'm going to bring over my pan, and that way I can show you, at least show you the addition of our next ingredient. So let's kind of slide this all over here and make this easy. I was unable to connect that one camera, but that's okay. All right, so here we are with our cooked pork. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add in my onions. And I'm gonna add in my ginger. Oh, I'll just add it all in. A couple tablespoons. And my garlic. And I'm just gonna pop this right back onto the stove and allow my onions to soften up, my garlic and my ginger to get fragrant, and then we'll add the rest of our sauce ingredients. So let's go back to our dicing. Again, you're going to slice this lengthwise and then cut across.
Liz, we have a couple questions while you're
Sure.
dicing. One question was, is this recipe high in sodium? And if it is there any way to reduce the sodium?
So yeah, you can certainly cut back on the amount of the soy sauce. You could use a low sodium soy sauce. You could also reduce the amount of your hoisin. So you can do that. And that would be the best way. The other way to, if you're going to reduce the reduce the salt, then you want to up the flavor, right? So you will find, and I found this with my father, as we age, our taste buds are almost dulled, as we age. And so it's really important to have ingredients and things that we can add to our food that really heighten the flavor. And also, if you are on a reduced sodium diet, of course, you know that, the flavor goes down even further. So you want to use high flavored ingredients. So I definitely we're going to be adding some cilantro to this. You could add the basil, just like we talked about. But another thing that will help lift the flavor for any dish that you've had to reduce the salt or the sodium in is an acid. So whether it's in this, it would be fantastic to use lime, okay, lime juice or lemon juice or a little bit of vinegar at the end. Keep those things at your kitchen table and add them to foods that you find to be bland, and it will lift the flavor, and I'm sure that you will be much more satisfied. So that's a little tip I like to share.
And with your pork, did you need to drain the fat off of it?
There's not a lot of fat in here, as you can, I don't know if you can see in the pan, there's very little fat in this. So no, I didn't drain it off. And in fact, animal fat is a really good source of fat. So I don't mind leaving it in. I actually have purchased, let me see if I have this, an alternative to those processed oils is I actually get tallow, which is rendered beef fat, and I keep that to cook with. Yeah, there's not a lot of fat in this. Certainly if you felt that there was, you could, spoon it off if you wanted to, but I didn't in this case. All right, we're adding our peppers, and then I'm going to add my sauce ingredients. So I've got my soy sauce, and we have our hoisin. All right. And then, I don't know what that was. Something just popped. Oh, I think it was my light. Scared me. I have multiple light bulbs up there, and I think one just popped and that scared me. Okay, all is under control. Can you ladies hear me all right?
We can hear you just fine.
Perfect.
Still looking
Okay.
good.
Oh, good. You. All right. So just going to add that in, and I'm going to toss this on the stove for another few minutes. Okay. And then let that just come to a simmer, bring all of those flavors together. Notice here that I left out my bean sprouts because I don't want to cook those. I like them nice and crunchy. I have some fresh scallions from my garden, so I'm going to chop those up. And that's going to be a lovely addition here. You see, these ingredients are all so flavorful. Oh, a little bug from my garden jumped in there. Don't worry, he got away. Okay, and so there is my scallions. And oh, let me just chop up some more cilantro. And there we go. And boy, I think we've shaved off a good 15 minutes from our time, ladies. So that's the beauty of the 15-minute meal is even teaching it, it doesn't take long at all. So there are our nice raw ingredients that we're going to add in. All right. And let's get that finished up. Oh, this is perfect. Oh, it smells delicious. Isn't that gorgeous? Now, you can mix these ingredients right in to this, or you can put them on top when you're preparing your lettuce wraps. I'm just scraping off the bottom of the pan. Some of the pork got stuck, and now it's released beautifully. So I'm going to go ahead and add these in. And look, if you don't have a lettuce wrap to put this in, that's fine. This would be delicious all on its own, okay? Or you could serve it on top of the coleslaw that we made too. That would be wonderful. It'd be mixing a lot of flavors, but I certainly wouldn't turn my nose up at it. All right, now there we have it. So let's go ahead and get our lettuce wrap set. I've got a nice plate here. Let me wipe off the cutting surface. And I'm using romaine lettuce. They didn't have Boston lettuce, which I also like very much, but I like the romaine because it's nice and sturdy. So I kind of like to use it almost like a little boat. And you can use smaller ones too. Let me just grab that. And let me get my tongs. We've got our salad here. We'll put that on the plate in just a second. So now we're just going to load up on there. And then when you serve it, you can flip over the top and then you can bite into it just like that if you like. Or you can just serve it as is, just in that wonderful boat. And these hold their shape, so it's easy to pick up. You could even take the tail end of your lettuce, your romaine lettuce, and put it inside. That will make it even sturdier. And then just fill that up. Okay. So isn't that a gorgeous setting? Oh, I'm crunching the bottom just so it will sit a little bit flatter. There we go. And then we have our wonderful dressing or salad with a beautiful and delicious curry dressing. You could pour a little bit more on top of that, which I'm going to do because I love it so much. Perfect. And that's it. So that is a wonderfully full meal. Certainly this would be a complete meal on its own in those lettuce wraps. But here we have it added to our curry miso cabbage. Let's just put that there so we can see everything together. And so there's our 15-minute meal. Very easy to do. This filling will last for several days. You might want to serve this over rice. You could serve it with, I do have something I wanted to share with you. This is a noodle made out of a yam paste. So this is something you could buy at an Asian market. So this noodle would be wonderful, and it's low on the glycemic index. So that's something you can buy at your grocery store. You may enjoy having that, and you can serve this filling right on top of that. But there are some ideas for you, all done in 15 minutes. Very easy, and I can prove it because we are now 15 minutes. We were 15 minutes late when we started. We got it all done with the instruction and everything in due time. So do we have any other questions before we go today?
Somebody wanted to know, did you just wash the leaves for the romaine lettuce?
Yeah, these were still wet from when I rinsed them. I didn't have time
Okay.
to dry them, but yeah.
And somebody else wanted to know, when you make up recipes for 15 minutes, does it include all the time of getting all the ingredients and chopping them all up? Or they just wanted to know for general information?
You know what? It depends on how fast you are. Sometimes, you know, my cooking, you know, I take less time than a lot of people to prepare something because I have the skills to do it. I think really what I mean is you can cook that meal within 15 minutes. But I think there are a lot of ways that you can shave off time if you wanted to really think about, you know, first of all, we all know if we were really good, we'd be planning our meals, you know, a week in advance, pre-buying all our groceries so that you would know that on Monday's dinner and Thursday's dinner, you're having cabbage. So you would pre-shave all of your cabbage so it would be ready for both days. And then Thursday dinner is going to take a lot less time to make. So, you know, there are a lot of ways you can shave off time. I also say the smaller your ingredients are in the cooking process, the faster they will cook. So this cooked very quickly because the onions were diced small. I used ground pork versus pork loin. You know, the vegetables were diced very small. So that cut down on the cooking time because I also used a very large saute pan. So that's actually a very good question. So thank you for asking.
Yep. I think that's all our questions for right now.
Okay.
you
and
ready,
Wonderful.
so,
Kathy?
so yes, I did say there was one person that just asked the name of the noodles one more time. Because they
Oh,
missed it, the noodles that you
okay.
were,
I think they're called shirataki noodles.
shirataki. Yeah, got it.
Yes, I think it's SHIRAITAKAI something. Anyway, you know where you're going to find them is in the refrigerator section where they keep the tofu. That's where you're going to find them. They're a refrigerated product. Now, one little bit of information: when it's stored in a plastic bag with liquid in it. When you open it, it's going to have a seafood smell to it because it's a seaweed water that they pack it in. So I just rinse mine and then I let it soak in water for about 10 minutes, and that takes that scent all away. So don't think it's gone bad. It's how they package it.
Ah, so that's great to know. Thank you very much, Liz, for showing us how to make these delicious 15-minute Asian inspired meals. And it's a great cook along demonstration. Today's cook along demonstration is one of the many upcoming virtual events through New Hampshire AARP. And we hope you will come back and join us for more. To learn about AARP New Hampshire's virtual offering, including gentle yoga, educational webinars, and more cook along demonstrations, as well as if you're interested in volunteering for the AARP New Hampshire community teams, please contact us at www.aarp.org/New Hampshire. And our next cook along demonstration with Liz will be on Tuesday, November 21st at 2 p.m. You can register for this cook along demonstration at New Hampshire's AARP website or the AARP virtual community connections. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Everybody says it was a great class. It looks wonderful. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you all so much. I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yeah, next month. Thank you, Liz.
Bye.
Hi, Liz.